Why, hello there. This is JoPaddy, and tonight I'll be reading you a very special sleep story. This one's for kids and adult kids. It's a wonderful, lovely little fairy tale called Rapunzel by the Brothers Grimm. The Brothers Grimm wrote many stories, including Snow White and Cinderella, but I like Rapunzel. Matter of fact, Rapunzel is one of their more famous ones. Now, let's get cozy under your covers and close your eyes and listen to a wonderful story, a fairy tale just for you. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there lived a man and a woman who had long wished for a child. These good people had a small window in the back of their house, and when you looked out of it, you could see a garden. This garden was beautiful. It had flowers and vegetables. But the garden was surrounded by a very high wall. No one would dare enter it, for it belonged to an enchantress of great power who was known throughout the world. One day, the kind woman stood at the window overlooking the garden and saw that there was a bed full of the finest vegetables. The leaves looked so fresh and green that you longed to eat them. And just because she knew she couldn't possibly get any, her desire grew day by day. So she didn't eat very well and became very sick and frail. Her husband grew concerned and said, "What ails you, dear wife?" "Oh," she said, "if I don't get some vegetables to eat out of the garden, I know I shall surely wither away." The man, who loved her dearly, thought to himself, "I don't want my wife to be sick, so I'm going to go get her those vegetables that she wants, no matter what the cost." So when it started to get dark outside, he snuck over there, climbed up over the wall, and into the garden. He gathered up a handful of vegetables and returned with it for his wife. She at once made it into a salad, which tasted so good that her longing for the forbidden vegetables only grew greater than ever. And if you were to know any peace of mind, there was nothing could be done but for him to climb over the wall again and fetch her some more. As the night drew in, he climbed over again, but when he reached the other side, he drew back in dismay, for there, standing before him, was the old enchantress. "How could you climb into my garden," she said with a glare, "and steal my vegetables like a common thief?" "Oh," he said, "let mercy take the place of justice. Necessity alone drove me to the deed. My wife saw your vegetables from the window and had such a longing for it that she surely would have died if she were not allowed to eat some." The enchantress's displeasure was slightly appeased. "If it is as you say, you may take as much vegetables away with you as you like, only on one condition: that you give me the child your wife will surely bring into the world, and all shall go well with it, and I will look after it like a mother." The man was in shock, but agreed to every condition. And as soon as the child was born, the enchantress appeared and gave the child the name of Rapunzel, and carried her away with her. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child under the sun. When she was older, the enchantress hid her up in a tower which lay in the middle of a very big forest. It had no stairs and no doors, only a small window up at the very top. When the enchantress wanted to get in, she stood at the bottom and yelled out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." For Rapunzel had long hair that was fine as spun gold. And whenever she heard the enchantress' voice, she unfastened her braids and let her hair fall down out of the window all the way to the ground, so the enchantress could climb up. After about a year or two, it happened one day that a prince was riding through the woods and passed by the tower. As he drew near to it, he heard someone singing so sweetly that he stood still. He was spellbound and just listened. For it was Rapunzel up in the tower, singing out into the woods to pass the time. The prince longed to see the owner of this mesmerizing voice, but he couldn't find a door or a way up into the tower. He went back home, but the singing so deeply touched his heart that every day he went back out into the forest and listened to it again. One day, when he was standing behind a tree, he saw the enchantress approach, and he heard her call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." Then Rapunzel let down the golden braids of her hair, and the enchantress climbed up to her. "So that's the staircase, is it?" said the prince. "Then I too shall climb it and try my luck." So on the following day, when it started to get dark, he went to the bottom of the tower and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." And as soon as she let it down, the prince climbed up. At first, Rapunzel was caught off guard when a man came in, for she had never seen one before. But the prince spoke kindly to her, quite like a friend, and told her that his heart was so touched by her singing that he felt he would have no peace of mind until he had seen her. Very soon Rapunzel warmed up to him, and over time they grew quite close. When he eventually asked her to marry him, she agreed at once. He was young and handsome, and she knew she would certainly be happy with him, more than the old Enchantress. So she put her hand in his and said, "Yes, I will gladly marry you and go with you, but how shall I ever get down out of this tower?" Then she had an idea. "Every time you come to see me, you must bring a spool of silk with you, and I will make a ladder of it. And when it's finished, I will climb down by it, and we will ride away together on your horse." Until the ladder was ready, he was to come to her every evening, because the old enchantress was with her during the day. The enchantress, of course, knew nothing of what was going on, until one day Rapunzel, not thinking of what she was doing, turned to her and said, "How is it, good mother, that it is so much harder for you to get up the tower than the prince? For it takes him just a moment to reach up the top." "Oh, you child," said the enchantress, "what's this I hear? I thought I had hidden you safely from the whole world, and in spite of it, you have decided to challenge me." In that moment, she took Rapunzel's beautiful hair and wound it around and around in her left hand, and took a large pair of scissors in her right hand. Snip, snip, off it came, and Rapunzel's beautiful braids lay on the ground. And even more, she was so hard-hearted that she sent Rapunzel away to a very lonely and deserted place, so that now she surely would not be discovered again. But on that evening of the day that she had driven poor Rapunzel away. The Enchantress had fastened the braids to a hook on the window, and when the prince came and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair," the Enchantress let the hair down, and the prince had climbed up as usual, but instead of his beloved Rapunzel, he found the Enchantress, who glazed her glittering eyes upon him. And she said, "Ah, you thought you would find your lady love? But the beautiful bird no longer sits singing in her nest." The prince was so upset and beside himself, and in his despair he jumped out of the window and down the tower, and he fell so hard on the ground he lost his sight in the process. He went on to wander and wander around the forest, missing his wife. He wandered around for quite some time. Then he happened to come to a place where Rapunzel was also living. As he wandered by, he heard a beautiful voice, and it seemed so familiar to him that he went towards it. And when he approached, Rapunzel recognized him, and she fell to her knees and cried. 2 of her tears touched his eyes, and in a moment they became quite clear again, and he could see with them as before. He hugged his beloved wife and was very grateful to finally be reunited. And for both of them, all of a sudden, it felt like no time had passed at all. And then he led her back to his kingdom, where they were received and welcomed with great joy. The new king and queen, home at last, and together they lived happily ever after. Sweet dreams and good night.